Well, hello everybody. Very nice to be here. We are First Phosphate. We've been on before. We are Igneous Phosphate for the lithium iron phosphate and lithium industry. What's really interesting is, we're not involved at all for fertilizer, just high purity igneous phosphate, but strictly for the LFP battery industry. I believe we're the only company anywhere in the world focused on phosphate just for LFP battery and not fertilizers. Okay. As everybody knows, the LFP battery has really been taking over. It's now about, 60 to 80% of the batteries out there on a worldwide basis, and it just continues to grow. It's the battery of the future. It could be the battery of the next few decades. When we look at electrification, basically at Benchmark Minerals, they've come out and they've said that the second most important material after copper for electrification is purified phosphoric acid, not even phosphate, but the highest form of purity of phosphate. And they're predicting that we need 33 new purified phosphoric acid plants in the West to respond to demand. And if you look at that, that's by 2030, not 33 plants. Well, how many plants have we been able to established in the last 70 years in the Western world since purified phosphoric acid was invented? Well, there's only been five that have been able to be established in the West. So basically, we're going to need 28 new facilities in under 5 years. So it's not possible. There's going to be a massive demand for this. If you look here on the right, CRU Group has come in very very conservatively. The long band of light blue, that is the amount of purified phosphoric acid that's currently being produced and what they see being able to be produced until 2045. As you can see, there's no capacity expansion. And then just regular uses of purified phosphoric acid, which is, for carbonated beverages, things like Coca-Cola, toothpaste, Colgate, pharmaceuticals, cosmetics, water treatment, fire extinguishers, and other industrial uses, is already going to outstrip that demand, let alone what we're going to need here for LFP battery, which they're saying is going to be a double, right? But when you look at what they're saying here at Benchmark Minerals, they're saying it's going to be, a factor of, perhaps 5 or 10. So really the curve is going to go up this way. So purified phosphoric acid, very important for the batteries. Second most important thing, it could be a big lynch point, right? Where all the lithium that we have in the world might not even be able to be unlocked unless we have purified phosphoric acid to make the LFP battery, which is the battery of the future. So what do? The only way to make a lot of purified phosphoric acid is with igneous rock. And this is the rock that we have access to in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, Quebec. It's only basically 5% of the world's phosphate reserves. The rest are sedimentary. So the igneous rock, almost 95% of it converts into purified phosphoric acid that goes into making the battery. And it does so in a very clean way. The gypsum byproduct that comes out of it is fully recyclable in order to be able to make plaster and modular construction. Whereas a sedimentary rock is a real problem. It's not very pure. It's basically old kind of seabed, old whale bones, old organic matter around the world. That's got a lot of cadmium, uranium, and thorium in it. And as you can see, it's very problematic because it leads to these big gypsum slag piles that are radioactive that stay inert in the environment for a very long time. But eventually, they all break down and they've caused a lot of environmental problems. And this kind of phosphoric acid only makes a very little amount of LFP battery grade purified phosphoric acid. Most of it is only pure enough to be able to go into the fertilizer industry. So igneous phosphate rock that comes from the stars trapped in lava is pretty much the only solution in order to be able to expand the purified phosphoric acid needed for LFP battery for what's coming in terms of the demand for purified phosphoric acid for LFP battery. Okay, so let's talk about igneous rock. So igneous rock, first phosphate, we're able to purify our igneous rock up to almost 41% P2O5, which to now is probably the highest grade found anywhere in the world. There's only 5% of the world's phosphate that's igneous, and it's trapped in these sort of blue areas. Northern Europe, mostly Russia, in carbonatites. Also carbonatites down here in Africa, which are very hard to access and have some rare earths in them. Same with here in Brazil, a lot of rare earths. So most of these carbonatites go into the fertilizer industry. But here in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, Quebec, is where we have this igneous anorthosite. It's not even a carbonatite, and this is why it processes so clean to a 41% pure P2O5. So igneous phosphate rock, especially igneous anorthosite rock, which is only 1% of the world's phosphate, is really important in order to be able to make this battery grade phosphate. Until now, the red dots here in the world, which are sedimentary phosphate, that's all we needed when we were producing fertilizer grade. But as we start needing a lot more LFP battery grade phosphate, look to really, igneous rock, especially that found in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, Quebec, to fix that problem. Okay, so this is our deposit. We're 2.5 kilometers long. It's at surface. It's at about 3 kilometers from major roads. It's right on major hydro lines. It's in between two towns. Has a lot of workforce in the area. It's about 300 meters wide, and so far, with what we know, it goes down 300 meters, and it's open at depth. Some of these mines can go down into 1 to 1.5 kilometers in other parts of the world. And we've already been able to use this feedstock to make purified phosphoric acid, some of the world's cleanest purified phosphoric acid, which was made together with our industry partner Prayon in Belgium. What you see here on the screen equates to about 350 gigawatt hours of LFP battery for a minimum of 23 years and possibly much higher. Just to give you an example, 350 gigawatt hours of LFP battery. That's enough to power the whole fleet of vehicles, electric vehicles produced in North America for the next 23 years. So that's, 12 million cars are produced between Canada, USA, and Mexico per annum. It would probably be able to satisfy about 6 million of those. Right now, we're sitting at, very low igneous phosphate prices, the lowest we've seen in a long time. And even at that, we have a NPV of 2.1 billion, an IRR 37%, and a 2.9-year payback period with a 23-year mine life and 1.5 to 1 strip ratio. As prices are heading higher in the lithium space, especially for this purified phosphoric acid for LFP battery, being the choke point for the lithium, you can expect, to see, some growth off of there as well. Okay, so here's where we're sitting. We're sitting in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, Quebec. We're 2 hours north of Quebec City. And we're in a very special region of the country, which basically creates all the aluminum and all the forestry products. Those are the two industries right now that are going in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, Quebec. Obviously, they're having a little bit of difficulties with the trade tariffs, and also with the way industry's been going with some environmental challenges. But this whole area's got a lot of really good workforce, a lot of really good equipment suppliers. The aluminum industry has been here for I believe over 150 years, and so, we're the great next new industry for the area, clean tech, and, with a lot of the infrastructure already built in the area. The mine site will be here at about 70 kilometers driving distance this way from the deep sea port of Saguenay. At the deep sea port of Saguenay, we then have access via the port of Saguenay, which the federal Canadian government just put in another $57 million in order to have a second quay built. And that allows us to get, our material off to Europe, to our European off-takers. Already 25% of our mine stock is off-taken to Europe, and about 30 to 35% of the purified phosphoric acid, the phosphoric acid plant that will be here at the port of Saguenay, off-taken as well to Europe. And as you can see, we're also sitting at 40 kilometers from intermodal rail lines that take product all the way down into the United States if necessary. Okay, so basically, as I was showing you there, we plan to extract and concentrate at the mine site, then at the port of Saguenay, refine into phosphoric acid, and then eventually make LFP cathode active material that goes into the batteries that then go downstream, across Europe and North America. Something we're very proud of, if you see even on here on screen, we've been able to complete the full loop, and we've been able to use our processes to make the first LFP batteries made in North America in about 25 years. As you know, the LFP battery process was invented in North America, but it was quickly lost over to China by about 2003. We only ever made it in small scale commercial batches, but for the first time in 25 years, First Phosphate has been able to take its minerals, and all minerals from North America for that matter, and been able to make the first LFP batteries. Okay, we took igneous and anthracite rock in Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, Quebec, turned it into phosphate concentrate, that 41% pure, feedstock that we talked about. Then made it into purified phosphoric acid with Prayon, our partners, and then we were able to make that into iron phosphate using the phosphoric acid, and also iron, one of our secondary recoveries that was processed for us by GK and Hoganes in Tennessee. And together with a source of lithium from Century Lithium in Nevada, we made LFP cathode active material. With our friends at Nouveau Monde Graphite in Montreal, we got the graphite, battery grade graphite, and Altian out of Nevada assembled these batteries. The world's first LFP batteries made from critical minerals in North America through a process that was invented in North America. So basically, we've been able to complete the full loop of making these LFP batteries in North America. This is really important. They were made at commercial scale. They were cycled 2,000 times. That means charged and discharged 2,000 times. And so now you know that all the minerals in the process that went into making that, is workable, right? That was really important, the first step in terms of onshoring the supply chain, which is what everybody wants. Okay, we have very large partners at the table. Good relationship with our Indigenous group, who's also looking at investment, letters of interest from the Quebec government, and a number of industry partners at the table, including Exim Bank, that had a letter of interest for $170 million of financing for the mine and downstream facilities. Okay. So we're a management team that meets and beats all of our milestones. Our next big one here is really the feasibility study, which should be delivered by the end of 2026. And we've already started our full scale definition drilling program to be able to qualify our resource. And also we started our environmental studies, our big large scale bulk sample, our metallurgy, and we're well on our way to delivering this as promised by the end of 2026. And then we hope to be able to go into permitting by 2027. We hope to have an active mine for 2029. That's when our offtakes to Europe basically are to begin, as well as our phosphoric acid plant at the Port of Saguenay. Right now, our share price has come up quite a little bit here in the last few days. We're sitting at about $125 million market cap. We have no debt. We have 150 million shares outstanding, very tightly held. A lot of it's still held with the management, the board, and our high net worth friends and family, and then a smaller public float that's trading out there. Okay. The other important thing is we've raised about $44 million to date, and we've done that all of ourselves without any formal underwriting process. And it's been all very good kind of sticky capital. We've got a very good board and management team. We call ourselves a mining tech company. We have great people in the fields of mining, but also in the great fields of technology, and that's what allows us to do this. Get from a hole in the ground, eventually to creating an LFP battery, right? So from mine to market, and that's because of the strength of our team. Okay, I'll just leave you with this as we close up here. LFP battery is battery of mass adoption, right? And everyone always thinking about EVs, but if you look at EVs, the EV sector is only 7.1% of LFP battery, right? Look how much more LFP battery is, right? All public transportation, all buses and all public transportation in China is on LFP battery. Then you've got a whole, component of consumer electronics, small little drones and other devices, telecom towers. All the telecom towers, remote telecom towers, are on LFP in China, and you got this massive, component here, which is basically stationary energy storage for data centers, all the energy going in and out of data centers regulated by LFP battery. You've got the battery walls in people's homes, but you also got the big energy storage for hydro, wind, and solar, which is now becoming a massive component of all of the energy grids around the world, and all of that's on LFP battery. So this is going to be a massive trend here, LFP battery. And everyone's talking about lithium all day long and the shortages in lithium that are coming. But just remember, right? Like, unless you've got phosphate, everything's going to be blocked. And no one's really looking enough at the phosphate. LFP, lithium. Okay, we know that there's 300 or 400 companies in lithium out there. Iron, we know that iron powder is available. But phosphate, P, where are we going to get the phosphate? Where are we going to get the purified phosphoric acid in order to make LFP? Available in the West. So let's start thinking about the P and not just the L. And as far as I know, there's only one real way to play, pure play way to play phosphate, igneous phosphate for LFP battery in the West. Only one company that's fully focused just on phosphate, igneous phosphate for LFP battery, and that's us. That's First Phosphate. So I don't know if there's any questions. If there are any questions, if you could please just put them in the chat box, and what we'll do is we'll just answer them. Unfortunately, right now I have got to cut out, but if you put out those questions in the chat box, I promise, along with your email, they will be collected, and I will get back to everybody and answer them directly. So thank you very much again, for watching here. And again, remember that, there is no LFP without the P. Okay. Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
So, John, thank you very much. Fantastic presentation. Purified phosphoric acid is a major pressure point for the entire LFP industry. So, what do you think people still tend to overlook about how critical it is?
Yeah, I mean, I guess people seem to think, phosphate is widely spread out there. It's in fertilizers, so if it's everywhere out there, then it should be able to go into batteries. But I think everybody knows that batteries are about ultimate purity, right? You need ultimate purity in order to get ultimate purity out. So a lot of the problems with lithium has been, hey, can we process this up, to almost 100% purity? And it's the same thing with phosphate. The phosphate and even the iron that goes into LFP battery, it has to be high purity. So high purity phosphate is really capacity constrained out there. I don't know if you saw on that slide that I showed where, the amount of purified phosphoric acid out there in the world, in the Western world is constrained, to 2045 at the current state of affairs. They don't see that increasing, but yet there's going to be, a need for double, triple, quadruple, 10 times the amount of purified phosphoric acid out there for LFP batteries. So you're looking at a situation where the entire stock of lithium out there, whether carbonate or hydroxide, doesn't matter what it is, will be completely landlocked without the phosphate, and the high purity phosphate at that. So high purity phosphate, major lynch point in the LFP battery. And the only way to get that is through very, very purified phosphoric acid. And first phosphate is sitting on, the world's purest form of igneous phosphate, anorthosite, been proven out of Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, Quebec. Over 90 to 95% of this rock can be converted directly to purified phosphoric acid for battery, without having anything to do with the fertilizer industry, which is exceptional.
Yeah. So, as you said, the PPA is really important. So, but at the same time, the forecasts show almost no new PPA capacity being added through 2045. So, how does that lack of expansion affect the companies trying to build LFP supply chains in North America?
Yeah, exactly. They're all going to be capacity constrained. I mean, there's been a lot of focus on lithium. All the focus has been on lithium. Um, and then, we were looking at nickel, manganese, and cobalt for NMC batteries, and we quickly realized, well, that's not going to work because there's not enough nickel, manganese, cobalt in the world. So in LFP batteries, I mean, we really need to start focusing on the P, otherwise the L is going to be completely landlocked without it.
And if I understood correctly, your process produces recyclable gypsum rather than waste piles. So, how much weight does that kind of circular economy advantage carry when you speak to with governments or partners?
Yeah, yeah, of course, Matthias. I mean, phosphate is generally, sedimentary phosphate has been, a dirty industry, but it's been an industry that we need. The world cannot feed itself without phosphate. If the phosphate disappears tomorrow, there'd be starvation on the planet. Very, very high, within, 3 to 6 months of there not being enough phosphate. So phosphate's required. We've put up with the dirt with it for a long time for agriculture because we need to feed people. That's essential. But when it comes to batteries, yes, batteries are essential, but they're not that essential that you can pollute the planet for it. And one of the ideas behind battery itself is, to carbonize the world, right? To be able to have a cleaner world. So if you can't process that in a clean fashion, then there's no point to even producing the battery, right? We see that with a lot of the battery metals. Just the pollution to create the battery metals is not worth it in the end. But with purified phosphoric acid from igneous source, it can be done clean, and that's a huge advantage. Is being able to produce clean phosphate, clean purified phosphoric acid with, almost fully recyclable secondary products from the waste streams, is it's basically what it's all about nowadays, especially in the Western world. So we're right there. We're right there with igneous phosphate that basically is able to be produced with clean, very clean gypsum byproduct that can go into a plaster or a modular home construction.
Okay. And early offtake partners have already committed to a share of your concentrate and phosphoric acid. What are those customers valuing most at this stage?
Yeah, I mean there's European off takers on the phosphate concentrate and on the phosphoric acid, and what they're valuing most obviously is cleanliness, the ability to get to this rock, the fact that it's traceable, the fact that it's within an allied partner in North America. That's very important, and the purity. Above all, it's really just the purity, and just the ability to get to a desired outcome with no surprises.
And the feasibility study targeted for 2026 is a major step. Which part of that study do you think will draw most interest from the industry and investors?
Yeah, so the feasibility study is supposed to be coming out on a very aggressive timeline at the end of 26. And so I think there's a number of steps to get there. So right now is the definition drilling. It's moving our PEA into, a resource, really defining the resource. So that's the big thing we're looking for next by April of next year. Also, the environmental work that's coming out of it. The metallurgical studies are really important as well. We've done small scale metallurgical. This is large scale metallurgical for what would be the exact process at the concentrator. So that's very important. And all the other studies and work that comes into putting together the feasibility study.
Okay. And when you look at the entire supply chain, mining, acid production, and chem production, which part do you see as the biggest operational skeletons challenge to scale?
Well, I mean this type of mining is solventless recovery. It's magnetic separation flotation is really well known out there in the mining world. It's these are processes that have been known for hundreds of years. So that's really important. That is a very scalable process. And then for making the phosphoric acid, we'll be using the technology from the European leader, Prayon out of Belgium. We've already got license to that, so we know that that works. So that's really important there as well. Matthias, it's really important to see that throughout our process, all the way to getting to making even the battery cells, we've always used commercially available technology. We're not really big on. We think R&D is important, but for the industry as a whole, but not for us. We just like to use processes that have shown commercial viability from some of the largest companies in the world to date, and that way we just get our technological risk down to zero.
And LFP demand is growing across EVs, but also in energy storage, telecom, and data centers. So, which of those markets do you think will end up probably growing faster than people expect?
Yeah, that's a great question there, Matthias. So everyone was always talking EVs, 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 EVs. And to some degree, that's what many still think that. But the bigger markets, if you see why there's been a big move in lithium prices and in lithium stocks, everybody's looking, at understanding basically energy storage, right? Storage of energy that comes from hydro, from wind, from solar, and also, energy in and out of data centers, all the regulation of that current, robotics, automation, onshoring, new age factories, all of that requires batteries because all the precision work there has to have, stable, constant, and precise hydro. And because of that, everything's got to go through a battery. So that's the massive, massive need out there. I would say EVs is not even, 5 to 10% of LFP battery anymore. All those other needs are energy storage and data centers, and even the battery walls in people's homes to regulate the current within the homes. That's by far 60, 70, 80% of the market now.
Okay. And as more companies in North America talk about securing critical metals, what kind of conversations are you having that make you feel the momentum is finally shifting?
Yeah, well, I mean, the conversations we're starting to have is, around, solutions. Before it was around, minerals, but the minerals are worth nothing without the solution. So, these are the conversations we're having. How do you get to purifying these minerals, get them out of the ground, purify them, get them into a mine to market strategy, something that can make a difference, and can give a final product, and that could give supply chain security, national interest. Those are the big discussion points these days.
and you plan that your project combines traditional mining with advanced downstream processing. How do you build a team capable of bridging those two very different worlds?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've already kind of got that, Matthias. We've got, leaders in business, leaders in technology, and leaders from the mining world. And, it's just about bringing them all together and being able to work together, and teamwork, teamwork, teamwork. That's really important. So you start with the best partners, you start with the best leaders, the best staff, and then you bring that together, and you make, teamwork makes the dream work, to use a cliche. And that's what we do all day long around here.
And also, partnerships seem to be central to your strategy. So, what does an ideal long-term partner look like for you at this stage of the company's growth?
Yeah, and that ties into your last question as well, Matthias, right? So the partners, they bring together the security and they help you to stitch together the technology and the mining. Long-term partners, usually somebody who's operated in the industry, who's got technology working in one of the segments, of the supply chain, or of the mine to market that we're looking to build, and who's been deploying that, for decades and at commercial scale and profitable. And that's what we're looking for. Though that's an ideal partner for us, and that's in fact the partners that we generally have out there.
And with LFP adoption accelerating globally, what's one trend in the battery market you think people still aren't paying enough attention to?
Um, I think it's the trend we talked about before. Like, it's just not about EVs anymore. I don't think most companies even really care too much about the EV sector. Yes, it's important, and we hope it does well, but there's just so much more around battery. Everything that's onshoring, automation, precision manufacturing, basically uninterrupted manufacturing, storage, batteries, independent power. All of that is what's really important around battery, and especially around LFP battery. And that's a global phenomenon, and that's not changing with any political event or economic event or anything else. Like, that's just the way that we're going as humanity. And, above all, is just the voracious need for energy, for electricity, for everything that we do on this planet, and the need to regulate that, store that, and to make that, consistent and streamlined. And that's all LFP battery.
Mhm. And to wrap it up, that one line that you mentioned several times, there is no LFP without the P. What's the core message you want the people to take away? And why is now the time to invest in first phosphate?
Yeah, perfect, Matthias. So, all the lithium is, I believe, before, when they started talking about lithium, was, who had the largest deposits, and then it became, well, who could process that right downstream into carbonate or hydroxide. But the next step is going to be, well, who can make that into cathode active material? Well, you can't make that into cathode active material, that lithium. It all remains landlocked without the P. And the only company that I know of in the world that's fully 100% dedicated to phosphate, igneous phosphate, highest purity phosphate in the world, and who has access to that, just for LFP battery, and has no interest in fertilizers, just technology. That's First Phosphate. So that's the reason to get involved in First Phosphate, because we are right at that lynch point that is going to make lithium either feasible or not feasible, and we're able to, to unlock all of that. The next step in the growth of the onshoring of the LFP battery, or batteries of any sort, really, in North America. And First Phosphate is just sitting there with a very focused mine to market, igneous phosphate model.
So thank you very much, John.
Thank you, Matthias. It's been great. Oh, and please remember, if anybody would like to really stay up on all of this, I do tend to use LinkedIn a lot, and I do tend to point out some, very important developments in the industry. So please follow me on LinkedIn, and that'll be a great source of staying in touch as well. Thank you,
All
everybody.
right.